Welcome to the Studio Chat podcast. My name is Barbara Thompson. Each week, I'll be bringing you a self-care expert or a message to help you to discover how to live your best life and understand your mind-body connection. This month, I'm going to be dedicating each and every episode to my beautiful dog, Maisie, who passed away a month ago. She was my self-care ambassador for my business, but also on every single podcast for the last 52 episodes. She has been right by my side for each and every episode I've recorded and with all of my guests. And one thing I've learned about love and unconditional love is something that Maisie showed me. She showed up every day for me. It didn't matter what I was doing, how I looked, how I felt. That beautiful dog was just my best mate, and she was always there. And it has led me in these last 4 weeks to a journey of healing, discovering more about myself, learning how to process my feelings through grief, but also just learn more about myself. And this dedication is for you, Maisie, and this month, every episode is about healing, about spirituality, and about anything that I think that my girl would like you to hear. So, sending big love to my Maisie. I miss you a lot, and these episodes are just for you. Hello, and welcome to the Studio Chat podcast. Today is my 57th episode. So that's pretty exciting. I can't believe that today with Amanda Hogg, I'm going to be recording my number 57 episode. So I met Amanda maybe about five or 6 weeks ago, I want to say. And I'll go into that a little bit later into how I found her and why I've got her on my podcast today. To give you an idea of what Amanda does is that she is a psychic, tarot, and singing yoga teacher, and she does body harmony practitioner and body work, and she does all this amazing stuff. And I'm really excited to have this chat with you today, Amanda, because I love you as a person and what you represent and what you do to help people, but also your amazing gifts. A lot of this stuff in this realm, in this world, I've never known about or never. Yeah, it's really new stuff for me too. So I want to bring this to my platform to educate and to let people know that there's all these other cool modalities out there that if it interests them, that they could contact you.
Oh, wow. Look, I am so deeply honoured to be here with you. Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. That's just gorgeous. It was just an absolute pleasure to meet you and to be able to do the reading with you. I really enjoyed it so very much. And, I've been a psychic, like tarot reader for nearly 40 years. And the psychic side of things started when I was about 10 years old, and I'm nearly 60. I'll be 60 next year. So, I've been doing it for quite a while. I got handed a tarot deck by a very interesting man who's now the editor of a very famous magazine. But he said to me, "These are for you." And he handed me this tarot deck, and I just went, "What are these?" And and it was interesting because it was a Thoth deck, and I've used lots of other decks, but I've always come back to that deck. And I use a really amazing man, and I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly, Gerd Zeigler. He's from Germany, and I love his interpretation. So I do that. And I also have been quite psychic, as I said. I suppose since I've been about, say, 10 years old, I've been really super aware of it. And of course, we didn't really know what to do with that at that time, but so we just sort of focused on other things. Like I'm talking about my parents, which is like, what do we do with this sort of ability, And anyway, it just developed. And I think the fact that I was given the deck, that helped, give it, if you will, like a platform to come through more. And so that was really fascinating. And, I've had lots of different sort of what you would term like psychic experiences and that kind of thing. And I've been a singer since I was quite young, and I studied like classical ballet and all sorts of things like that. And I wanted to be an actress and all this sort of stuff. But then music, I just got taken by music like you wouldn't believe. So I've been a singer and a songwriter for a very long time, and I discovered that I could create music on computers. So that was pretty wild, you know. And then I studied body work, body harmony in particular. I've been a Bowen therapist too and had my own practice in Sydney, but I studied body harmony with Dr. Don McFarlane when he was still alive. My brother, Duncan Hogg, he brought me, like he showed me that, he brought it to my attention, and I really enjoyed it. And my brother's just taken it to the nth degree, you know, with his wife too. And it's just something I really love. And what happened too, when Don McFarlane was still alive, and another teacher too called Patrick Collard, they did this amazing seminar where I learned all of a sudden that I could hear music in people's bodies. So body harmony briefly is a listening technique through the hands and the senses, and you allow the body to have a really safe space for it to unwind. And it's incredibly powerful. But what I discovered was that I could actually hear music. And I was working with Patrick Collard when he was alive, and I was working with his, so I had his kneecap in between my hands, and I could hear this rhythm, and like it was different. I said to him, you know, I can hear this rhythm and that rhythm. And he said to me, oh, you're good. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, I used to be a drummer. And he said, you're hearing the kick. And I just went, well, that's interesting. Yeah. And so it was quite fascinating. I've had lots of experiences like that. But long story short, I discovered that I could hear music. And then the progression of that was that I was able to then hear like what was a symphony in people, and just to work with that. And so when they were having like healing release, when I was working with them, I could then reproduce that, and I'd get them to sing as well, you know. So, and then I discovered in my early 20s, my mother actually gave me a cassette from a place in Sydney, and it was called Nada Yoga. And I thought, what is Nada Yoga? And so Nada Yoga is like the yoga of sound in your voice. And so throughout the decades, you know, I had 3 children, and it sort of, I'd go back and forth to it, or just be, you know, really focused on being a mother. And so, you know, lots of things. I used to think, oh, should I do this? Should I just do my music, or should I do my psychic work? Should I do my healing? And then Don McFarlane just said to me, well, do all of it, you know. And so that's what my life's been about, you know, is very much combining them, but also having them, if you will, separately, you know. So it's been really fascinating. And then I suppose the other aspect that happened was I discovered that I had the ability to be like a medium. It's not something that I advertise as such, because I'm not at that level where I can make it happen, you know. So I always say to my clients when I'm doing readings, look, if that happens, are you happy for that? So, you know, that's another really interesting aspect that I'd really love to I suppose learn more about, you know. But it fascinates me. It absolutely fascinates me every time it happens.
All right. So I haven't met anyone quite like you that has that ability to do you know, we can go into each one a little bit, but the psychic and the tarot, and then the singing yoga, and then the body harmony, and then you do all of it. So yeah. I guess one or two things happen when someone comes to you. Normally people come to you for a reason. And do you kind of guide them as to what would be best for them, or as you're with them, it kind of unfolds that, or they may need some tarot, or they may need some body harmony work? Is that kind of how it works for you?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. And so what I do find happens is that through the course of the reading, I will be able to just tune into what they need. You know, if they just want to have a straight reading and they have very specific questions, then, you know, I stick to that because it's somebody else's reading and I don't want to impose my agenda on it. But the bottom line is, you know, people will come for a reading, and then I think, oh yeah, you know, maybe you could do with some sacred singing, you know, some what I call singing yoga, and then or maybe it will be grand for you to, you know, just have some body work or that kind of thing, like it can be different, or it can be all of those, or I can say, oh, like, I think this person would be really good for you to go and see as well. So not necessarily just me, so I always find that really interesting.
Yeah. And where are you based now? Where do you base yourself?
So for nearly 25 years, I've been living in a place called Crystal Waters in Conondale in southeast Queensland. It's in the Sunshine Coast hinterland, and it's an intentional community with basically they're practicing permaculture principles. And it's the most amazing place. I've raised my 3 children here. And I love it. I absolutely adore it. So, like, I'm out in the bush per se. I have kangaroos and wallabies and echidnas, bush, all that kind of thing in my backyard, and a huge goanna that's called Big Dave.
Big Dave. I like the sound of Big Dave. I don't think I'd like the look of him. I think he would scare me, but
it's very big, let me tell you. My housemate Ross named him Big Dave. But he gets up to all kinds of mischief. But yeah, so I'm in the bush there, in Conondale, Queensland, which is near Maleny too. We're about, say, 25 minutes from Maleny, which is a really beautiful place too. So yeah.
You're really connected with nature, you're really out there, aren't you?
Oh yeah, very much.
It's so lovely. And I was actually, so when Maisie passed away, and my listeners will know who Maisie is. She's my dog that passed away 5 or 6 weeks ago. And I had a really hard time accepting it because my life wasn't how I pictured it. I had an idea and a vision of what my life would be like when I had to say goodbye. And my life wasn't anywhere near what I had clearly seen my life to be. And I had to make that very painful decision very quickly. And when I was not interested in having anything spiritual ever again, I had really close, even as she was passing and as she passed, I was just like, F the universe, I'm over it now. I'm not interested. Like, you've really let me down. Like, I can't believe that this has happened. And I don't know if anyone can resonate to this. You've had an idea or a picture in your head that you've kind of, no one really told anyone about, but you've been working towards it. And then your life doesn't go the way that you thought it would, and it crumbles you. And I was just crumbled, and I was like, I don't believe in anything anymore. What's the point? Like, fuck this. So, basically. And that's the best way for people. It's important to understand that was where I was at. It's just like, nah. And then every passing I've had of an animal was different. And this time I just, 2 or 3 days later, I had this feeling of, always when you have to make that choice, is it the right thing? I knew in my heart it was the right thing, but you always have this, oh God, did I do the right thing? Where is she? Is she okay? Like, that was kind of what I wanted to do. And I knew a lady that was to do with kinesiology that was on my podcast, and I reached out to her, and I was really reluctant. I was like, hey, do you know someone that can possibly connect to my dog? And she was like, yeah, gave me a lady's details. Then I got passed on, then she passed me on to you, and I contacted you, and we had this beautiful FaceTime reading where I was very closed off. And within a couple of minutes, it was very obvious to me that you knew nothing about me and you had names, and look, every reading's different. So I don't want to put anything out there too specific, but you said a few things that no one ever in this world would ever know about me. And I was like, okay. And then just the fact that Maisie actually came through, which was just what I needed at that time. And you just said some beautiful things. And guys, I'm going to be a bit honest here and vulnerable and just share a little piece of this. If this is okay with Amanda, is this okay? That I share this little piece. Was we were just talking about her, and she was telling me about her characteristics. And she was like, I can see Maisie in some really long, tall grass. And I had to laugh because Maisie, both of my dogs really loved running through long grass. But when we moved to Australia, they've got ticks and stuff. And we don't have that in New Zealand. And so they never could really run through long grass because I was very strict about that. Anyway, on her last week here, every day I'd let her run through the long grass and she loved it. And so that was one of the first things that Amanda said was, Maisie's telling me that she's so happy and she's running through long grass. And I was like, yeah, okay. I can't, yeah. And then she said, and she's got so many butterflies around her. And oh my gosh. And I was like, oh, that's nice. And I know what Maisie's personality was like. And anyway, Amanda described this particular butterfly and she's like, it's like a burnt orange and it's like, described it. And I was like, okay, that's kind of weird. And then all of a sudden at my glass big sliding doors where I know Maisie is to this day, I had this butterfly at the window and I just said to Amanda, oh my God, like this is nuts. Like it was just, wasn't it? It was just.
It was extraordinary. And I think what's coming to my memory too, and I'm sorry, my memory's not always great with details, but I remember even her favorite toy came through in the color. And I was just like, wow, this is extraordinary. And she was showing me where she was. And, you know, in the past when spirit comes to me, whether it's a human or whether it's a beloved animal, they often show like what their heaven is, if you will, you know. And I remember the first time that happened to me, but with you, with Maisie, it just kind of blew my mind a little too when the butterfly arrived in reality, and then the toy, and then just other things. It was just, for me, it was the most extraordinary experience in so many ways, as far as, you know, like with the mediumship work. It was just wow. And, you know, again, I can't make it happen. If it's going to happen, it comes through, you know. And for you, I was just so rapt that, you know, it could actually happen for you during the time of the reading.
And then I needed it. And then it just, everything that the vet had said and everything that I knew to be true, you know, whatever I needed to hear was that my timing was impeccable. Like that's what she said. And she was very sick, and just knowing that was that. And then all of a sudden, like, obviously with my accent, you kind of know I'm from New Zealand, but because Amanda was deep in her reading, she was like, oh, there's like a sheep there that's kind of like a dog, but kind of, and I know when Maisie was younger, she actually looked like a sheep, but then also there's a crossover with New Zealand, you know what I mean? Like it was just so cool, and it really healed my heart a little bit. Like it just gave me, whether you believe in this stuff or not, for me, I was very closed off when this happened, but I wanted some form of, if anyone has lost a pet, or you'll listen, or in the future you do lose a pet, some of us, like, you know, you do believe in that world, and you want to know that they're okay, and knowing to be able to connect to her. And actually, just before this podcast, and I'm going to speak vulnerable and honest today, because this is what my podcast is all about. I'm not going to hold anything back, but I actually had a flash vision of her today, and it was really 2 seconds, and it was just by her bed, and I just had this almost like a picture of her face that was really massive, and then it went, and I was like, whoa, thank you, but I just accepted for what it was. I didn't say I was crazy. It was really beautiful because knowing it gave me peace, and it gave me that the things that you said about her was just her personality, and it just made me feel connected to her.
That is so beautiful. You know, I think it's a wonderful thing when that happens. And, you know, even though you were closed down, and you know that you did have that vulnerability and you open up, because, and I find that too, the people that I can do extraordinary readings with are people who do become open, if you will. Because if somebody's closed down, I'm, you know, like in years gone by, I used to have some people kind of sitting with their crossed, you know, arms, and, you know, they want to have the reading and all that kind of thing. And it's like, well, I'm not here to prove anything. I'm just here to work with you. And I always love to say to people, I read with you, not for you. And I think that's really important, because it's an experiential exchange. It's not just one person doing something. It's very much a two-person thing that's happening. That's not a technical term, but anyway.
Okay, we're not about technical stuff today, but it was really for anyone going to listen to this at some stage about losing someone or losing a pet. It was, and your style of reading was very beautiful. It was very it wasn't wishy-washy. It was like to the point, but it was really heartwarming stuff. Like you read in such a beautiful way. And now I've got to know you a little bit over the last few weeks. Is just who you are, and your essence is just, you know why you do what you do, but you bring joy and peace to people at a time when people may, we all want answers and we all want certainty, and we can't have that. But what we can have is maybe a bit of direction or a bit of believing and knowing. And I think when people have passed on or something, I found you for a reason, and I need, and that was just something that I know if there's someone out there listening to that is feeling a little bit lost or just, wanting that need to connect to someone, that it was just such a beautiful experience with you.
Oh, I'm thank you so much. It was really lovely to be with you in that experience. Like it really, and it was quite visual for me too, with different aspects of it. It was just incredible. And yeah, I was so very honored to be able to be in that moment with you, and for everything that happened to happen, because again, it doesn't always happen like that. Like, with the reading, with the cards, I can interpret the cards, I've been doing that for a long time, and then psychic information will come through with people. And I find that incredibly powerful. It's just, and, I'm never blasé about it. It always amazes me. And I work with I have like guides I say that I work with, and and people say, I really love the fact that your guides have really normal names like Sonia and Colin and this kind of thing, and Raymond. And I was like, because and hey, if they have other names, I'm not taking the poo out of people that have ones that have got really long kind of spiritual cosmic kind of names. That's grand, that's brilliant. But mine just have really simple names, like Sonia and Colin, and then sometimes they'll just say like another one like this for that person in the moment, and that's always quite lovely. But
Beautiful.
yeah.
That is, so that was like my experience of with you and how I met you. And I think this month, me talking about spirituality and everything that it kind of embodies is, like we mentioned in the beginning, that you do psychic and tarot reading. And then there's another word that comes up for me. And because I'm very green in this, I think, if I'm green, I'm sure there's other people that are too. And I'm interested to see, like, what is a clairvoyant, and is that anything that you do as well?
Well, yes, like the two kind of intertwine with one another. So the word clairvoyant comes from the French. It means clear seeing. So that can be like mentally and optically things that other people can't see. It's what's the best way to put it? And then psychic is when they have like the ability to receive and pass on information in a way that can't be explained. And usually psychics can connect like to another person's soul, and they can channel past, present and future. Now it's not, so the clairvoyant can see images in their mind. So I find a lot of people that are clairvoyant are psychic, and vice versa, and then there's mediumship too. And, the more practice you do with, both, either or, this is what happened with me. Like I never ever set out to have any mediumship skills, but the bottom line was, and I've talked to people who are professional mediums, and they just said, well, it's no wonder, because you keep practicing what you're doing. And I suppose it's like anything, that the more you practice something, I think other abilities come forth, like especially in this arena, but not specific to this arena, definitely. But that's what I found. And I mean, and I didn't even think with animals, okay, but of course they're sentient beings. So I just started out with people, and then it progressed on in other ways, so I hope that sort of explains it briefly. But yeah. Yeah.
It does, because I think all of us, when we think of anything spiritual, people hear of psychic, medium, clairvoyant, and they kind of group it together, and then there's tarot cards. And I know a lot of people that I know personally, and people that listen to this podcast, actually do have tarot deck cards.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I
that's
love
a common thing, right?
Oh, yeah. More and more. Look, it wasn't so accepted many, many years ago. And in fact, you know, it was really frowned upon. But I mean, there's so many amazing decks coming forth now, and oracles and that kind of thing. So an oracle is different to the tarot, whereas the tarot, of course, you know, has 78 cards. There's 22 major arcana, the 16 court cards, and then the 40 minor arcana. And so I teach tarot as well. That's something I really encourage people, you know, to do that. When I was coming to Sydney quite a lot, to a lovely friend's place called La Diosa in Neutral Bay, I was doing a lot of readings there, and I used to teach tarot there, and I sometimes would take on people that really want to learn, because I think it's a really beautiful skill to have. But also what I am super excited about is I have a new deck coming by an amazing lady called Sally Gibb Cummings, and she's got a self-mastery guidance cards, and you know, they're amazing because they bring like a new perspective and clarity and guidance and insights into assisting you on your path. And she's Sally Gibb Cummings. She's extraordinary. She is an artist and a numerologist, among many other things, based in Sydney. And anyone that wants to have a look at this deck, she's actually having an exhibition. But if you go onto the Ecotopia Emporium website, Ecotopia Australia, you'll be able to purchase that deck. So mine is arriving in a few days. I can nearly not contain my excitement, let me tell you. And I use lots of decks, but predominantly I use a Thoth deck when I'm doing readings. I don't use Crowley's interpretation at all. I also loved, because people always want to know about love, among other things. So I use a beautiful love oracle. And I also use another lovely deck called the Kabbalah Angel Tarot. I love that. And what I love about using other decks is often the cards will kind of link in with one another, you know, and you can't make that stuff happen, you know, like if you think about probability. And so, you know, when I read for somebody, I'll do what I call a 4-card drop to start with.
Yeah.
And information that'll come through, and then I'll drop. And so a lot of my work now, even before COVID happened, I was doing a lot of online work. And when I discovered I could do that and actually still see auras and things like that in people, that was the most extraordinary discovery. But, you know, I think it's really a lot more accepted now for people to be using cards and, you know, tools of divination. And I think it's the most wonderful thing, you know. And I'm so
like, okay, so I'm a good guinea pig here. I don't know anything about tarot cards. I don't know if I want to, but I have a couple of questions for you. One of the questions is, I do find it bizarre that in my short time that I've had readings in person or online, and they flip the cards over and you see like a dagger going through the heart, and they're like, oh, that's really good, Barbara. Or you see something and you're like, that's messed up. Like,
yeah, I know. Look, this and look, I don't have to be really careful what I say here. You know, like that sounds to me like the Rider and Waite deck. Which if the Rider and Waite deck is a very old, ancient deck and all that kind of thing. The deck that I use as Thoth deck was painted by a woman called Frida Harris, and it's a lot different. So there's there's a lot of kind of really medieval depiction in that. And look, it's a lovely deck, don't get me wrong. It's not the deck that I prefer. I prefer the Thoth deck. And again, I love Gerd Ziegler's interpretation. And the other thing too is, what I have learned is that, you know, different people have different ways of reading it, and they'll go right into the symbolism and the astrology and the just like symbols, like the meanings, you know, the whole thing. I think one of the most powerful things I've learned as a reader is to gather your own meanings. And then when you're looking at the cards too, certain symbols will leap out at other times more than others. And I think it's really important to just notice and really listen to those feelings. And as a reader, for anyone out there that wants to study and learn, or just, do your own, it's really important to listen to what comes up first in you. Like, listening, I think, is one of the biggest things we all need to do a lot more of, to ourselves and to each other. And, like listening and gathering these symbols and just understanding how does that make me feel? And, how it will make you feel on one day, and then another day or from week to week will be different, and it's good to keep a diary too of these sorts of things. I always find that really powerful too. So, but there's a lot to learn.
Yeah, so if anyone doesn't really have any, like, we all have abilities, but if I know a lot of people that buy cards and do, sorry, excuse me if I use the wrong terminology, but they do the pulls or whatever, like they do a card reading for themselves and all that kind of stuff. Like, is that okay? Are you messing with stuff that, to me, you've either got the gift or you don't. Like, I could probably work on it, but it's not really my forte. So I'm like, you kind of got it, you kind of don't. But I know so many people from so many walks of life that on a daily basis or weekly basis, they do the cards for themselves. And I think, can you still get like the stuff that you need if you aren't trained in it? Or can you do some harm? Or
well, that's a really, really good question. I think it's very, very important always to, one thing that I is just a given, I always light a candle, okay? And I work a lot with frankincense, Royal Hajari, which is really high grade, which again you can get from my lovely friend Tracy at her Ecotopia. And I think you need to be squeaky clean with energy, okay? And don't ever do it. Like, I am a very firm believer, you don't do it when you've drunk alcohol or anything recreational, okay? I think that's super important. And I think a lot of people, think, oh, no, that's fine, that's okay. And I know just from friends around me who said, oh, yeah, I had a glass of wine the other night and I did this and that. And I just think, look, unless it's being done like in a way where there's, I suppose, ceremony and there's blessings and there's cleansing and that kind of thing going on, I do think you have to be very careful. And, I think you can learn a lot. I think it's good to study with somebody that you trust, that you feel good with. Read books, go onto whatever platform, and there's lots of amazing readers there now more than ever, like, up on different platforms like YouTube, etc., or podcasts, like where they're talking about that kind of thing. It's wonderful. It never used to be like that, and so, like, it's wonderful now so that you can actually you can learn a lot. Just to addressing, can it be dangerous? Well, look, I think sometimes people can overdo it. I think you need to give yourself time and space to integrate the information that comes through. Do you know what I mean? Like, because it's...
Yeah. Yeah, I see what you mean, because I see a lot of people, how back in the day, I'm showing my age a little bit, when we used to get a newspaper and people used to read their horoscopes, and even then the magazine, the horoscopes, that was a bit, woo. Now I'm finding that has been replaced, especially with all the stuff about the eclipse and I'm so green. So I'm probably a really good person to talk to, the people that want to dip their toe in and want to know a little bit about it. Like me, I'm a bit interested in it. I'm a believer, but that's where I've got my connections with you. Like, I'll leave all that good stuff to you. But people are more aware. It's becoming part of their self-care. It's becoming part of their spiritual beliefs. And I feel like people are using them. And this is why I brought it up. People are using those cards like a star sign reading.
Yeah, right. I know what you mean. So look, I think there needs to be a lot more sacredness around it. Okay, keeping things sacred and doing things. Again, sometimes it's treated a bit like a game, and I think again you need to be really careful with all of this. In that. The reflection time, the integration for what the message is of the cards, and you don't do lots and lots and lots and lots and lots, okay? And the only reason I say that is because, it's important to really deeply integrate whatever the message is. You don't need to be having lots and lots and lots and lots of messages, there's some people that I read for on a very regular basis, and then people will say to me, oh, when do you think I should have another one? And I say, well, whenever you feel it. I can't predict that, and again, that's really important. And then there's some people who, like, I actually read for quite a few psychics themselves, okay? And so
gosh, why would you? Is it kind of like any profession? You can read other people, but when it comes to yourself, it's a little bit difficult.
Okay, well, look, for some people that's true. I always like to give the description of, like, you can do self-massage, yeah, right? But when you have a massage from someone else, oh my goodness me, it's heaven, So yeah, sure, you can absolutely read for yourself, but having a massage.
You hear that?
No, sorry.
Practitioners go by the term massage therapist.
Hey Google, stop. It's my Google Home telling me all about massage therapists as you were talking at the same time. My Google, and I do podcasts in this room all the time.
Oh, sorry, that's so funny. So
I must have some mates here today. Hi, mates. Amanda and I are trying to talk. Piss off.
Oh my God, that's so funny. So look, that's the best answer for that. Look, I think some people are way more skilled at reading for themselves than others, and but yeah, no, I do actually get quite a few readers coming to me, and psychics and mediums coming to me, and I love it because it's like there's not a lot I have to explain. I can just really get the message. Look, I explaining too, by the way, like, there's no problem. It doesn't matter who the person is, but that's my best answer for that, I suppose.
Yeah, no, that's cool. And it's just, I have put you on the spot a little bit about the cards and stuff, but it's just something that I've seen out there, and the stuff is, more people are open to it, which is awesome. But I also want to make sure that I'm doing my podcast is all about talking about anything and being authentic, but also giving both sides too, and making sure that people have the information to do what they want to do with it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, look, I've had so many skeptics come to me and still surrounded by them, and then all of a sudden they go, oh, hold on a minute. Didn't you say? Or I'll have friends that I've read for, like years ago, and like I'm talking one dear girlfriend, more than 20 years ago, because I used to write everything down. I don't do that anymore, like we record it. But anyway, and she said to me, you said da-da-da-da-da 20 years ago. Well, it's just happened. And I get people like with that all the time. It's extraordinary, yeah, it never ceases to amaze me, just exactly.
What a lot of people can see it as being weird or whatever, but I think it's really common now. Like when I've had a lot of people reach out to me and been really excited about this month that I'm having all these beautiful people on my podcast sharing their gifts. So, thank you so much for sharing all your gifts, because it's something that more people are wanting to know about. Even the younger generation, the teenagers and stuff coming through are really into this kind of stuff.
Oh, they are, and not only this, another thing that I am just really passionate about with people, like exploring all of this, but they should be exploring their voices, like singing,
That's a good segue. Yeah.
A lot of people are really scared of their voices, or they don't think they can sing, or and it's just, that's another vibrational thing too. Do you know what I mean? And it's just, it's almost like something that we've kind of lost a little bit of, is singing. And I teach singing, and then I also teach what I call singing yoga, and it's with warming up exercises for the voice, and then we move into different things like singing a raga, and then we sing mantras that I've written music to, and I've just recorded an album that I'm a bit excited about as well, and it's just been mastered. But the idea of it is, it's like a tool. It's not like some big release, like that I'm going to do lots of grandiose videos to and all that. It's more a tool for when people learn these exercises, and they're really simple, and they're connected to the energy centers in the body, the warming up exercises. And I have kids come, and I have adults, and it's just so exciting. And then all of a sudden I started, after I'd been to India to do Panchakarma in 2017, I came back with this thing called a Shruti box, and I started writing music and melody to mantras. And anyway, so this album that I've just recorded, called the Singing Yoga Volume 1, is a collection of those mantras, and they have different healing effects. And it's like you don't even need to know what the mantras mean, even though, of course, people do want to know. But Sanskrit is such an ancient, incredible language. And, I feel that the more people use these for healing, for amazing positive results in their lives, like, it's really exciting. So that's like, for me, another tool that you can work with, like the tarot, like the readings, all of that kind of thing. And body work, you can work intuitively with all of those sorts of things. And again, people need to be singing more, like, I think it's really, really important, I think it's something that we all, centuries ago, or even not so many centuries ago, we would all like sing in choirs. We would gather in groups and do that more. And I just think it's a really important thing, because your voice is your soul's vibration. And the more you do that and sing it.
Your voice is your soul's vibration.
Yeah.
I know it's really important. Soul's vibration.
Yeah.
So it's every time you talk, every time you...
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh. Look at that. You learn something new every day.
It's wonderful. I find all of this so incredible and so exciting. It's, again, whether it's readings, whether it's the body work, whether it's the singing, it's all this beautiful working with energy and vibration.
Yeah. So what would someone... I will release it on both of my Instagram pages when your album comes out, because I'm definitely going to be buying it, because I actually was lucky enough yesterday, I think it was, I had a sneak peek into one of your tracks.
Yes.
Wow. It's, that beautiful music that you just put on and you just go, it's interesting, because I was watching you when you were saying that the different mantras will hit different body parts and stuff, and the chakras or whatever. And I know that first one was kind of in my heart, and you could feel it. And I listened to it first, and then was like, yeah, like a good feeling. But I was like, oh, I can feel something happening in my body. Like, this is cool, but it's beautiful, because it was just like, when you do yoga, and I can see why it's called singing yoga. You do yoga, and then at the end where you just do the bit where you just like starfish on your back. What is it called?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. I got that same feeling listening to music.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you so much. The term singing yoga came from my beautiful friend Yasminka. And she said to me, tell me, what is this thing that you do? And I said to her, well, and I said, well, it's like the singing yoga. And she said, that's what you call it. And I just went, whoa, thanks, Yasminka. That's really good. And so that's sort of, but it's basically, I've had a couple of teachers where I've had, some, not a lot of lessons, because I'm a singer anyway, but amazing woman called Shanti Shivani. She is the most extraordinary singer, and she, among many other things, she is into Drupad, which is a style of Nada yoga. And she does these warming up exercises, and that's what I take people through. We have like a meditation. So I have a group every Thursday morning. That's part of my practice in my home. People come in, and we have like a meditation connecting Earth to Mother Earth and to Father Sky, that kind of thing. And then we go through these beautiful sounds that you start with. So there's a heaven to earth sound, which is he-you. And then we say that 9 times together. And then we do with different tongue positions. Then there's different sounds that are connected to your energy centers or chakras, whatever you want to call them. And then we move into doing like I suppose a version of do re mi fa sol la ti do, but it's different. It's sa re ga. It goes on, basically. I won't go too deeply into it. And then we move into different mantras that I've written music to, and kriya, and some things from Kundalini yoga too. And so that's what's on the album. So I thought, people want to have something to take home to sing to. So that was the behind it. But also what's happened, though, is other people that have heard of go, I want to do a remix of that, or I want to do this, or I want to add like a beat. So we're going to do a second thing now, and which is going to be lovely, which is a bit more dancey, you know, because I figure if you're on the dance floor, you want to be having really good vibe and healing energy rather than some of the stuff that people are singing about and saying. You know, I think when you have the responsibility of the ear, you know, and people's bodies, and if they're in a more vulnerable space when they're dancing, because maybe they've had alcohol or whatever, you want to have good healing things coming through. And I'm not saying that it has to always be like that, but is my intention with the More Dance album is to do that kind of thing when people are dancing, that there's some beauty and then healing coming through.
Nice. So I think people out there now are like, it's kind of, I said on one of my other podcasts, I feel like self-care a little bit is being rammed down people's throats to the point where I think people are going to start resisting it soon, because it's all about circadian rhythm and waking up and exercising and green juice and collagen and all this stuff. And everyone's so confused anyway. And then coming back to this kind of stuff, like you do journaling or meditation or something like that, I think like if someone was to purchase that singing yoga album, it's something that can reset their soul. And they don't even, if it's someone that can't even meditate, I feel like it's something, even just listening to that one track, I feel like it could be something that if someone just puts some AirPods in or something and just sits outside and listens to your album, it kind of soothes their soul.
Look, well, that would be absolutely my intention. Again, they're not all exactly the same. You know, the one that I sent you a Durga mantra, which is a divine protection, you know, from a Hindu goddess. And there's other ones that are basically working with different areas and aspects, I suppose, of life. And you know, they're very, very powerful. There's one called the Ganpati Kriya, which is from Laya Yoga that I've worked with, and I thought, why don't you put this actually to the test, Amanda? So I went, okay, well, and there were things that needed doing in my home here at Crystal Waters, so I started dedicating and setting an intention with that, because it's the Kriya to overcome obstacles. So the deck needed to be done at the end, that there's other things that needed to happen here. So I thought, right. And then as soon as I did that, I kid you not, my parents, who own this place that I live in, that I rent from them, right, said, yeah, we're thinking that we want to do the deck and everything. And I kid you not, bar none, right down to even the outside of the place needed painting, and it's now painted. Normally we have house concerts here. That's like, if anyone sees on my Facebook there, the La Rosa room. So I love having concerts here with people. And so we haven't had one for a while. And but the place got painted. So that was a bit exciting. But I've got to say, these work. I suppose that's what that long-winded story was all about, is that, you know, these things work. And I always say to people, you know, set an intention, first of all, for yourself, for someone you care about, and then for somewhere in the world. And we do that like every Thursday morning from 10 to 11:15 here at La Rosa Room. We all get together. I think I'm going to have to get a bigger place soon, like, to do it. And, you know, like, I get invited to do workshops, and I can do like one-on-one work with people too that I adore, you know, absolutely adore. But it's so much fun, you know, the transformative powers of all of the kind of things, I suppose, that I'm super passionate about, you know, whether it's doing the readings, doing the body work, and doing the singing. It's all about transformation and moving your energy and being the best possible version of yourself that you can be, you know. Yeah. But also being kind to yourself, you know, that what worked one day might not work the next day, you know, and that's very much like Ayurveda, you know, which has really helped me transform my life more and more and more, that's for sure.
Yeah. That's amazing. And two, can we just have a quick look at, before we wrap up, the bodywork side of things?
Yeah. So the first while in my early 20s, there were a couple of things I started, which was crystal healing. And then I also studied with Dr. Don McFarland, body harmony, and that I feel that was one of the most important tools that I was given and practiced and evolved. I also studied the Bowen technique too. So I had a healing practice in Sydney for a while, and I had a lot of people coming and either having Bowen technique, or they would have body harmony, or sometimes I'd combine the two, and then the singing thing started to come through. That's when the body symphony. So it's, for me, body work is very much around creating the safest space possible for somebody to feel like they can unwind and they can explore. The body is a library of past, present, and future, in fact. And these are some of the things that I've really found fascinating when you just work with someone and you're not imposing any movements. And that's not to say that I think that imposed systems are bad. It's nothing like that. This is where body harmony is completely different. And it's about listening with all of your senses and through your hands, and just following, if you will, almost like the water in people's bodies, like the tides, and listening and just feeling where it stops and where it starts. And so, and then what happened with me is I was hearing the music as well, so, this is ongoing exploration that I just find incredible. I don't do so much Bowen technique anymore. But when I did study it in the early 90s, I absolutely adored it. And I think it's one of the most beautiful technique, But body harmony for me is more, there's a total free formness to it. There's this, it's ever evolving. It's not just one thing. A session will start, and then you walk away and it's still going, if you know what I mean. So there's this building with it and evolving. So it's an evolving touch.
Yeah.
Where when I studied it and where it is now, and I'm looking forward to being able to study again with my brother and his incredible wife at their place called Alea Verde. And so they have beautiful body harmony. If anyone ever wants to study that, getting in contact with them. And anyone, anywhere in the world too, if you just in body harmony, it's one of the most powerful techniques for, I think, human evolution. A lot of my family have been involved in it. And in fact, my whole family's involved in healing in one form or another. My mother's a yoga teacher. My father has a doctorate in esoteric psychology and astrology, and my sister is an amazing being that does beautiful healing work too. And you know what I mean? Like it's just my whole, like I could rave on about that, and I better not. But the body work for me is something that's really super important. Whatever form it takes, and what works for you at one time may not at another time. And so it's like we're all on these different paths and paths of evolution, and it's really just good to listen to your body and say, what do I feel like now, or do I not feel like that now, or and just be really tuned into yourself.
Because a lot of people are not because they're too scared to, but also we're never taught that it's a safe place to even simple things, like not even like on a spiritual side, but it's very Ayurveda, like obviously eating within the seasons, but also eating within the seasons, stopping before you have a meal and stopping. We actually don't even stop going. And I'm saying this because I need to start doing this again. What do I feel like today? Like actually just sitting with it for a moment and just going. And a lot of my counseling clients and nutrition clients are scared of that because they think straight away they're going to go, oh, pizza, chips, chocolate. But if you tune into yourself and go and stop all the noise and go, what do I actually feel like today? And people are really surprised. I feel like red meat and broccoli or some pasta, or like it's really interesting. Like you said, tune in, slow down.
Listen to yourself and listen to really closely the people around you. Like, that's, for me, that's one of the most powerful things you can do, is to listen.
Yeah. So from what you see in your professional opinion, what do you think at the moment is the biggest thing out there that you'd like to, like any a golden nugget or pearl of wisdom or something that you would like to share with people that are listening to this now that because you've got a good scope of people come to you for XYZ and people need help in XYZ. What's a common thread or a common thing that you're seeing at the moment?
A lot of people want to know about love. Okay. Relationships. They want to know about their future security.
Yeah.
Where they're headed. They want to understand why they feel so exhausted and so tired at the moment. And I think one of the biggest things that I feel is incredibly important, and one of my grandfathers said this to me before he passed. He said, pace yourself. Pace yourself. And I think that it's so important to rest. Really rest when you need to rest. Yes, we have deadlines, we have all sorts of things, but it's so important to take time to nurture yourself and to rest. And that for me is the biggest thing that I've had to learn. And when you get some energy back, if you don't go out and rush and go, again, keep pacing yourself even after the rest. And for me, that's one of the most important things. And of course, what I just said too, listen, rest and listen, and rest and listen, and rest and listen. Those sorts of things are super important. And, if you feel cold, if you need to eat, if you need to go to the toilet, do those things in the moment. Don't put them off. What your body is telling you.
Yeah, so many people in the corporate world, because I was never corporate, but I was in an office job. You'd sit there trying to finish a task. You need to go toilet. And it was a common thing around the thing. We'd laugh about it, but you'd be typing, oh, just do this email. Oh my God, I really need to go. Hang on, I'm just going to finish this. I've got to finish this.
Exactly. My mother's teacher, Swami Sarasvati, who passed away recently, she used to say things like, if you need to eat, eat. If you need to poo, poo. If you need to wee, wee. Things like that. It's just like, don't put it off, because you can really do some damage. I just really want, I raised 3 children, and they're all grown up and amazing now. But the thing is, right, I wish I had taken more time to rest. So, again, to all the mothers and fathers out there raising children, or having babies and doing that, rest, rejuvenate, look after yourself, look after one another, but look after yourself first,
People don't like resting.
No.
I don't know where it comes from.
Well, yeah, no, I I think it comes from a lot of bad conditioning, but the body is just focus on changing that. That we do need to rest. I've learnt that from having health challenges in my life, and I just really was forced to just rest, and I still have to. I still have health challenges. However, it's changed the course and the path of my life, and the challenges that I've had and continue. But resting is one of the most powerful things, and finding, a good team of people to work with you, someone like yourself with counselling, with nutrition, good chiropractor, osteopath, a good acupuncturist, good psychologist, like all of that stuff. Don't be afraid. I think, again, one of the most amazing things that's happened of late is that mental health is something that we can talk about a whole lot more, and we can learn about a whole lot more. And I think that's one of the most extraordinary things about right now.
Because it takes a village. You got to go back to how many hundreds of years ago when all our life was, and my clients laugh at me when I say this, but we got up with the sun, we cruised around, we ate, might have had a bit of sex, ate, and we slept. And at nighttime we would sit around the fire and share stories and talk and connect. When now we're all in front of screens, especially with COVID the last couple of years. It's really hard to integrate. It's really hard to talk to people again.
Yes.
And people don't That's what I mean. Their mind and their body isn't connected. They're not connected they're so confused with what I should be doing, the family cycle of everything. It's just a really confusing time, I think.
It is. It's super confusing. And again, that's why it's so important to really listen to yourself.
Yeah.
You know,
We need a village. We absolutely, like they say, when you have a child, it takes a village to bring them up. But as an adult, the last few weeks, I couldn't have got them by without you. The couple of times that you and I have talked, like, I need my village.
Yeah, well, always here for you. You know, like a lot of people will treat kids when they're distressed better than what they treat themselves. And yes, we've got to really look after children when they're distressed. But I always say to people, when you're distressed, when there's stuff going on, imagine you are treating like a child that's distressed. Just really look after yourself. Really take that time to go, what do you need right now? What's going on? And it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to feel these things, you know?
Yeah. Yep. You're very right. Very, very right. What a powerful conversation we've had today, and insights into all sorts of little things that I'm sure there's a lot of people that haven't even heard of this stuff before. So how cool is that we're just opening a conversation up and sharing with people all these different ways that they can lean on for self-care.
I think it's wonderful what you're doing. I think it's so amazing. All the interviews that you do with people, the podcasts, I think it's incredible what you're bringing to people.
Oh, thanks. Well, it's only made possible with people like you that are open to it and willing to do it. So, on that note, if someone's listening and I'm going to put all your details in the show notes, but just if someone's listening to this, where can they find you if they want to connect with you? What's the best way?
Well, I have a Facebook page called Raven's Fire, but also my email is a really easy way if they want to book a session with me. And the email is theamandahogg@gmail.com. So that's THE and then AMANDAHOGG@gmail.com.
Okay, and that's the easiest way for people to, if they've got any questions or they want to have any services with you, that's the best way for them to get hold of you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a Facebook page, as I said, Raven's Fire. There's the singing yoga, and there's even one for La Rosa Room. But where we'll get that up and running again soon. But that's I think the best way to go. Absolutely.
Lovely. Wow. Thank you, Amanda, so much for having a chat with me today about all of these exciting things. And let me just tell you that when you launch your album, I'm going to be buying it and we're going to share it with everyone so everyone can purchase your exciting new album and the cards as well. If you bring in the cards out, I'm sure people wanted to know about those as well.
Yeah, no, Sally Gibb Cummings cards, that's really exciting. And my album is the Singing Yoga Volume 1. So yes, that will be up on iTunes and Spotify and other platforms, and just got it back from the UK recently with the mastering. So I'm so excited about it. Thank you so much for having me, Barbara.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and it has inspired you on your self-care journey. Please feel free to share this with a friend and subscribe over on Apple Podcast. I really love hearing your feedback, so guys, please feel free to write a review on Apple and let me know which part of this episode resonated with you the most. To fall in love with yourself is the first secret to happiness. To find out a bit more about Self-Care Studio or the Studio Chat podcast, head over to my Instagram page, self_care_studio, or on my website, selfcarebybarbaraThompson.com.au. Really look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Look after you. And I'll catch you soon. Bye!